August 18th, 1993. Dinner was waiting. Her bike was found beside the road, wheels still spinning. But 12-year-old Sara and Wood? She vanished into thin air on her last ride home. No screams, no witnesses, just an empty stretch of Route 12, and a question that's haunted a family, tormented a town, and baffled investigators for 30 years. How does a child disappear in broad daylight without a single trace? Late afternoon sun spills golden over the farmlands outside Utica, New York. Crickets hum in the tall grass. Down a quiet stretch of Route 12, 12-year-old Sara and Wood pedals her bike toward home. She's just left a friend's house. She's wearing denim shorts and a pink shirt. She's thinking about dinner waiting for her, about feeding her rabbits when she gets back. She waves to a neighbor driving past, and then she vanishes. No scream cuts the summer air. No struggle marks the roadside. Just silence. When searchers found her bike hours later, it lay tossed in a ditch near the woods. The front wheel was still slowly spinning. One of her sandals lay nearby. But Sara? Gone. As if the earth swallowed her whole. For 30 years, that moment has haunted everyone who's heard her name. It's tormented a family trapped in endless questions. It's fueled whispers in corners of Marcy, New York, and theories that spiral into the darkest corners of the human mind. Was it a stranger lurking in the trees? Someone she knew? Or a secret this quiet town still keeps? This is the vanishing of Sara and Wood, a mystery carved into the heart of upstate New York. And today, we follow that empty road into the shadows, searching for answers lost to 3 decades of time. Before the posters, the headlines, and the decades of unanswered questions, there was just Sara, a freckle-faced 12-year-old with sky-blue eyes and a laugh that echoed through the halls of her middle school. She wasn't a cold case, she was a kid, a straight-A student who doodled horses in her notebooks and dreamed of healing animals as a veterinarian. She'd spend hours tending to her rabbits in the backyard of her family's home in Marcy, New York, whispering secrets into their soft fur. Her sister Rebecca remembers how she'd race downstairs every Christmas morning. Like a tornado of joy, that's who vanished on August 18th, 1993. Not a statistic. A real girl. That afternoon felt ordinary. Golden hour sunlight dappled through the trees lining Route 12. Sara had spent the day at a friend's house just up the road. Around 4:30 p.m., she hopped on her bike, a gift from her dad, and pedaled toward home. It was a ride she'd done countless times. Less than a mile. A straight shot past cornfields and quiet houses. A neighbor driving by later told police he saw her. She waved. Just a flick of her hand, a flash of her pink shirt against the green. An utterly normal moment. The last moment anyone ever saw her. Dinner simmered on the stove at the Wood family home. Pot roast. Maybe. Her place at the table sat empty. At first, no panic. Maybe she stopped to pet a dog, chased a butterfly, but minutes bled into an hour. Dusk began to bleed into evening. Her father, Robert, walked the route, calling her name. Her mother, Frances, phoned friends. Nothing. That's when the dread, thick and cold, settled in. Sara wouldn't just disappear. She wouldn't leave her rabbits unfed. She wouldn't leave her little sister waiting. This wasn't a runaway. This was every parent's primal fear made real. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. When Sara didn't come home, her family didn't wait. Her father, Robert Wood, was already walking Route 12, calling her name into the gathering dusk. His voice tight with a fear he couldn't yet name. Neighbors joined him. Flashlights cut through the twilight. Beams dancing over cornstalks and ditches. By nightfall, the Marcy Fire Department was there. State police cruisers lined the road, their red and blue lights painting the trees in urgent, swirling colors. This wasn't just a search. It was a race against time, a desperate scramble to find a little girl who couldn't possibly have just disappeared. And then, they found her bike. It lay tossed carelessly into a shallow ditch near the woods, just a few hundred yards from her home. Not crashed, not broken, discarded, like trash. The front tire was bent, still spinning slowly, as if it hadn't yet realized its journey was over. One of Sara's brown leather sandals lay nearby, kicked off or lost in the struggle. But there was no sign of struggle. No torn clothing snagged on branches. No scuff marks in the gravel. No blood blooming on the leaves. Just the bike, the single sandal, and a terrible, echoing silence. That spinning wheel became an image burned into the memory of everyone who saw it. It wasn't just evidence. It was a horrifying countdown. It meant Sara had been there very recently. It meant whatever happened fast. It meant she was taken right off that road, in broad daylight, on a stretch people drove every single day. How could someone snatch a 12-year-old girl off her bicycle without a sound? Without a single person seeing the act itself? Without leaving behind anything more than a spinning wheel and a lonely shoe? In those first frantic hours, hope wasn't lost. Police launched a massive search. They brought in tracking dogs. The dogs picked up Sara's scent near the bike. They followed it eagerly into the woods. And then they stopped. Confused. The scent just vanished, like she'd been lifted off the ground. Divers dragged nearby ponds and streams. Volunteers combed fields, calling her name until they were hoarse. Helicopters thudded overhead, spotlights sweeping the dark landscape. Nothing. Sara was gone. Investigators scrambled for leads. Who was on that road around 4:30 p.m.? Who might have seen anything? Slowly, two fragments emerged from the panic. The first came from a truck driver. He'd been heading north on Route 12 that afternoon. He remembered seeing a girl matching Sara's description. Small, dark hair, wearing pink near the woods. But she wasn't alone. She was standing near the open passenger door of a pickup truck. An older, rusty blue pickup truck. He didn't see her get in. He didn't see the driver. He just saw her there, near that door. As he drove past, was it Sara? Was this the moment? He couldn't be certain. But the timing and location fit. The second clue came from another local resident. They reported seeing a man acting strangely near that stretch of Route 12 earlier that same day. A stranger. He was just lingering, not working on a car, not walking anywhere, just standing near the tree line, watching the road. They couldn't give a detailed description, just a man. Maybe middle-aged, seeming out of place. Was he waiting? Was he watching for someone? For a brief moment, these threads felt like lifelines. The rusty blue pickup truck became the focus. Police issued alerts. They stopped every similar truck they could find across the region. They questioned owners. They searched beds and cabs. The description of the lurking man was broadcast, hoping someone would recognize him. This was it. People thought, this is how we find her. But then nothing. The leads evaporated like summer rain on hot pavement. No one definitively identified the suspicious man. No one else reported seeing that specific blue truck near Sara at the critical time. The trucker couldn't swear it was Sara he saw. There was no license plate number. No clear make or model for the truck beyond old and blue and rusty. The man seen lurking remained a ghost. The absence of evidence became its own chilling fact. No screams heard. No witnesses to the actual abduction. No defensive wounds indicated at the scene. No torn fabric. No dropped belongings beyond the sandal. No signs of a vehicle pulling quickly off the road or speeding away. It was as if the road itself had opened up and swallowed Sara whole, leaving only those two silent, haunting artifacts, the bike and the shoe, as proof she'd ever been there at all. This is the core of the mystery that has tortured investigators and armchair detectives for 30 years. How does a child vanish on a well-traveled country road in the middle of the afternoon? How is there no physical trace? No compelling, concrete witness? How does someone pull this off without incredible, terrifying luck or meticulous, horrifying planning? Was it a crime of sudden, brutal opportunity? Or had someone been waiting? Knowing her route, knowing her habits? The bike, eventually tagged and bagged, sits in an evidence locker. The sandal rests beside it, silent, holding answers they may never give. The ditch where they were found is just a ditch now. But on that spot, on August 18th, 1993, time stopped. The spinning wheel marked the end of Sara's ordinary summer day and the beginning of a darkness that has never fully lifted. The complete lack of answers wasn't just frustrating. It was, and remains, profoundly unnerving. Because if it could happen to Sara, on that sunny afternoon, on that familiar road, where, and to whom, could it happen next? For 2 long years after Sara vanished, the trail went stone cold. The posters faded on telephone poles. The frantic searches stopped. Life in Marcy, New York, tried to move forward, but the shadow of that empty ditch, that spinning bike wheel, hung heavy over Route 12. The police file stayed open, but leads dried up. Hope felt like a distant memory. For Sara's family, every unanswered phone call, every knock on the door, was a fresh twist of the knife. They lived in a terrible limbo. Then, in 1995, a shattering break came from an unexpected place, a jail cell hundreds of miles away. Louis Stephen Lent Jr. wasn't just another name in the system. He was a predator. By early 1995, he was already locked up in Massachusetts, facing charges for the horrific murder of a 12-year-old boy named Jimmy Bernardo. Jimmy had vanished while riding his bike in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, just a year after Sara. The parallels were chilling. During intense police interrogations, Lent, seemingly eager to talk, dropped a bombshell. He didn't just confess to killing Jimmy Bernardo. He confessed to taking Sara and Wood. Imagine the shockwaves. For investigators in New York, it was like lightning striking in the dark. Here was a man, already admitting to kidnapping and murdering a child in a terrifyingly similar way, a child on a bike, and now he was pointing a finger at Sara's case. He claimed he had been driving through upstate New York on that August day in 1993. He said he saw Sara riding her bike near Marcy. He described pulling over, forcing her into his car. He spoke of driving her deep into the Adirondack Mountains, a vast wilderness north of Utica. And then, he said, he killed her. He told police he buried her body in a specific, remote area near Lake Pleasant, New York. This wasn't just talk. Lent offered details. He agreed to lead authorities directly to the spot. Suddenly, after 2 years of agonizing silence, there was a concrete location, a place to look, a place to bring Sara home. The relief, the desperate hope that surged through Sara's family and the community, must have been overwhelming. Maybe, finally, they could lay her to rest. Maybe they could have answers. In the cold spring of 1995, a massive operation began. State police, FBI agents, forensic teams, and search dogs descended on the patch of woods Lent had identified near Lake Pleasant. It was rugged, isolated terrain, thick with pine trees, boggy ground, and the lingering chill of winter. Backhoes and excavators carved into the earth. Officers and volunteers sifted through mud and rock by hand, inch by painstaking inch. The world watched. News crews set up camp. The Woods family waited, holding their breath. This was it. After all the nothing, they were going to find her. Weeks passed. The dig site grew larger, deeper. They followed Lent's instructions precisely. They searched areas he pointed out on maps. They brought him to the site itself at one point. Shackled. To clarify, they used ground-penetrating radar. They brought in anthropologists. They turned the earth inside out. They found nothing. No bones. No shred of clothing. No personal belongings. No evidence that Sara and Wood, or anyone, had ever been buried there. Just roots, rocks, and cold, empty dirt. The crushing disappointment was unimaginable. For Sara's father, Robert Wood, who had poured his soul into finding his daughter, it was a brutal blow. He had dared to hope, only to have that hope ripped away again. Investigators were baffled and furious. Lent had been so specific, so confident. Why lead them on this grueling, expensive, emotionally devastating wild goose chase? This left one haunting, unavoidable question. Why did Lent confess? If he didn't take Sara, why claim he did? If he did take her, why send police to the wrong place? Theories swirled, the craving for notoriety. Lent was a small, pathetic man who had committed monstrous acts. Confessing to Sara's disappearance, a high-profile national case, gave him a twisted kind of fame. It put him in the spotlight, made him feel important in his jail cell. He became the bogeyman connected to multiple child vanishings, playing the system. Some investigators believed it was a calculated manipulation. By cooperating on Sara's case, even falsely, Lent might have been trying to gain leverage, hoping for a better plea deal on the real charges he faced for Jimmy Bernardo's murder in Massachusetts. Maybe avoiding the death penalty there, or seeking transfer to a preferable prison. He was playing a sick game, the mind of a monster. Others simply saw it as the cruel whim of a sadist, causing more pain to Sara's family. To the police, to the public, was entertainment for him. He enjoyed the power, the chaos, the knowing he could send hundreds of people scrambling into the woods on his word alone. A grain of truth, a darker, more unsettling possibility lingered. Maybe he was involved with Sara, but the details were wrong. Maybe he had an accomplice. Maybe he misremembered the location. Or maybe he deliberately sent them to the wrong spot to keep the real location secret, to maintain some final, terrible control. But without proof, without a body, Without any physical evidence linking Lent directly to Sara or the scene on Route 12, it was all just speculation. His confession remained just words, terrifying, manipulative, empty words. Police could never definitively charge him with Sara's abduction or murder. Sara's fate remained locked inside Louis Lent's twisted mind. He became the prime suspect, a dark shadow forever cast over her case. But nothing more. Robert Wood, refusing to give up, even confronted Lent in prison years later, desperate for any scrap of truth. Lent offered nothing but chilling silence or vague, unhelpful ramblings. Louis S. Lent Jr. died in prison in New York in 2022. At the age of 77, he took whatever secrets he held about Sara and Wood, and countless other potential victims, to his grave. His death closed a chapter, but not Sara's story. His confession, once a beacon of hope, became just another dead end in the maze of her disappearance. A cruel trick played by a monster that left a family and a community still staring into the void, wondering if the truth died with him. When the facts run out, the mind races. When the ground gives no answers, people start digging with their imaginations. For 30 years, Sara and Wood's disappearance has been a dark, empty space, and into that space, theories and rumors have poured like smoke, filling the void with shapes and shadows. Some are born from fear, some from desperation for an answer, any answer. Some are just stories, but in a case with so little to hold on to, these whispers became a part of the mystery itself. The local secret theory, Marcy. New York, in 1993, was the kind of place where people knew each other, where doors were often unlocked, where a kid could ride their bike down a country road without fear. But after Sara vanished, a subtle unease settled over that trust. Whispers started, quiet conversations over coffee, glances exchanged at the grocery store. Could it have been someone from here? Someone Sara knew? Someone everyone knew? One persistent rumor centered on a particular property near where Sara's bike was found. It belonged to a man described by some as reclusive, maybe a little odd. People wondered, had his land ever been properly searched? Could something or someone have been hidden there? The theory suggested maybe local authorities, hesitant to point fingers at one of their own, or wary of causing panic, didn't look as hard as they should have, that maybe a secret was buried not just in the ground, but within the community itself. It was a theory born from the terrifying idea that the danger wasn't a passing stranger, but something much closer to home. The other predator theory, Louis Lent cast a long, dark shadow. But was he the only monster lurking in upstate New York that summer? The other predator theory says no. Investigators knew then, and we know now, that predators rarely work alone in the world. Even if they act alone, could another dangerous individual have been operating in the area? Some point to the sheer efficiency of Sara's abduction, the lack of struggle, the vanishing trace, and wonder if it points to someone experienced, someone who'd done it before, or perhaps Lent's crimes, once they became known, inspired a copycat, someone who saw the news about Jimmy Bernardo in Massachusetts and thought they could get away with the same thing here. The theory argues that focusing solely on Lent might have blinded investigators to other possibilities, that the real answer wasn't a jailed killer confessing for attention, but another face, another name, lost in the crowd. The cover-up theory. This is where the whispers turn darker, more conspiratorial. Some people couldn't accept that Sara simply vanished without a single clear trace. They found Lent's sudden confession convenient. Too convenient. The theory goes like this. What if Lent's confession wasn't real? What if it was a deliberate distraction? The idea suggests powerful forces stepped in. Maybe Sara wasn't murdered immediately. Maybe she was taken by someone involved in organized crime or a trafficking ring. Maybe she was sold or hidden. And authorities, discovering this horrifying truth, realized revealing it could cause mass panic, or expose something even bigger they couldn't control. So, the theory claims, they used Lent, a known liar seeking fame or favors, to solve the case. They let him point to a patch of woods, knowing nothing was there. They let the search happen, knowing it would fail, all to bury the real story, to let the public believe a lone monster was responsible, and to close the file quietly. It's a theory built on distrust and the terrifying idea that the truth was too ugly to ever see the light. The supernatural angle, when logic fails, sometimes people turn to the unexplainable. Even in a case as real and raw as Sara's, ghost stories emerged, especially along that lonely stretch of Route 12. Locals, particularly teenagers seeking a thrill, would talk about feeling an unnatural chill near the ditch where her bike was found, even on warm summer nights. Some claimed to see a fleeting figure, a small girl in denim shorts and a pink shirt, vanishing into the trees when they drove past, or hearing the faint, phantom sound of a spinning bicycle wheel. These stories weren't told to solve the crime, but perhaps to process the unthinkable, to give Sara a presence, however spectral, in the place she was last seen alive. It was a way for the land itself to hold on to her memory, a haunting born from collective grief and the desperate need for her to still be there, in some form, rather than just gone. The weight of the void, these theories, the local secret, the other predator, the cover-up, even the ghost stories, they tell us something important. They tell us how desperately people need to make sense of the senseless, how an unsolved mystery becomes a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears, fear of our neighbors, fear of hidden monsters, fear of powerful lies, even fear of the unknown beyond our understanding. But here's the cold, hard reality that sits beneath all the whispers, without physical evidence, without a body, without a single concrete piece of proof tying any theory definitively to Sara's fate. They remain just that. Theories, rumors, glimmers in a vast, dark void. Investigators chased the blue truck. They dug where Lent pointed. They followed up on tips about odd locals and strange men. They sifted through every rumor that seemed plausible. And every single time, they hit the same brick wall. Nothing. No DNA. No weapon. No witness who saw the crucial moment. No grave. Just the enduring, frustrating, heartbreaking absence of Sara and Wood. The theories are threads, thin and easily snapped. They offer possible paths, possible monsters, possible endings, but without evidence to weave them into something solid. They unravel, leaving only the central, agonizing truth. On a sunny August afternoon, a little girl vanished without a trace. And 30 years later, despite the whispers, the shadows, and the desperate need for answers, the how and the who remain as elusive as the girl herself. The darkness on Route 12 holds its secret tight. Time moves on, seasons change, but for those left behind in the wake of a vanishing like Sara and Wood's, some wounds never truly heal. They become scars carried every single day. While the world searched for answers that never came, a family lived a lifetime of absence. And in that void, they fought, not just for Sara, but for every child who might pedal down a sunlit road. Robert Wood, Sara's father, became a man defined by a single, shattering moment. He wasn't just a grieving parent. He was a force. Long after the news vans packed up and the official searches ended, Robert kept looking. He transformed his pain into action. He printed thousands of missing posters, Sara's bright, smiling face looking out, and plastered them on bulletin boards, phone poles, and truck stops across the country. He followed every tip, no matter how faint, chasing shadows across state lines. His pickup truck became a mobile command center, filled with maps, files, and a desperate, unwavering hope. He became a familiar, heartbreaking figure in Marcy, a father walking the road where his daughter disappeared, year after year, as if willing her to reappear. His search led him to places no parent should ever have to go. He walked into prisons. He sat across from monsters. Most notably, he confronted Louis Lent himself, face to face with the man who taunted authorities with a false confession. Robert Wood demanded the truth. He looked into the eyes of the predator who had dangled the cruelest kind of hope and asked the question that consumed his life. "Where is my daughter?" Lent, true to his nature, offered nothing, no remorse, no answers, just the chilling silence Robert had lived with for decades. Robert Wood searched until his body could search no more. He passed away in 2020, taking his own unanswered questions to the grave, a father's love enduring to the very end. But Sara's legacy isn't only one of loss. It's also one of protection. Out of the darkness of her disappearance came light for others. Driven by Robert's relentless advocacy and the haunting question, could this have been prevented? New York State passed Sara's law. This crucial legislation mandates that every school across New York teach age-appropriate child abduction prevention education. It empowers children with knowledge, teaching them about stranger danger, safe routes, and what to do if they feel threatened. It's a direct, living response to the tragedy on Route 12. Every lesson taught, every child made safer, carries a whisper of Sara's name. Her story isn't just remembered, it actively shields others. For Sara's sister, Rebecca Wood, The passage of time is a strange companion. The little sister who waited at home that August evening is now a woman carrying an unfathomable grief. Some days, she has said, her voice echoing a pain that feels fresh despite the decades. It feels like yesterday. The ordinary milestones of life, graduations, weddings, birthdays, are forever marked by the silent space where Sara should have been. The bond of sisterhood wasn't broken. It was severed abruptly, leaving an ache that never fades. And the community? Marcy, New York, was irrevocably changed. That quiet trust inherent in small towns was fractured the moment Sara's bike was found. Parents held their children closer. Routes were scrutinized. Doors stayed locked. The innocence of a summer bike ride carried a new weight. But alongside the fear grew remembrance. The patch of dense Adirondack woods near Lake Pleasant, where Lewis Lent sent searchers on that futile, heart-wrenching dig, locals didn't forget. They began calling it Sara's Forest. It's not an official name on any map. You won't find a signpost, but in the hearts of those who live nearby. That's what it is. A quiet, enduring tribute. A place where the trees stand as silent witnesses, holding space for the girl who never came home. It's a testament that while the world moves on, Marcy refused to forget the bright-eyed girl who vanished on their watch. Sara and Wood isn't just a cold case file number. She's the face on faded posters kept by neighbors for years. She's the reason a father drove 1,000,000 miles searching. She's the name behind a law that teaches children to be safe. She's the absent sister whose laughter is painfully missed. She's the spirit whispered about in Sara's forest. Her vanishing left a wound. But the fight to remember her, the fight to protect others in her name, the refusal to let darkness have the final word, that is Sara's true, unvanishing legacy. 30 years, a lifetime for some, a single, agonizing question mark for others. Time hasn't solved the mystery of Sara and Wood. It has only deepened the silence surrounding that stretch of Route 12. The leads are colder now. The faces that searched are older. Some gone. The world has spun madly on. Yet, the echo of a spinning bicycle wheel still cuts through the decades. A soundless tremor in the heart of a story without an ending. With the death of Lewis Lent in 2022, a heavy door slammed shut. Whatever flickers of truth, whatever twisted lies, whatever dark knowledge he carried about Sara's fate died with him in his prison cell. He took his secrets, genuine or fabricated, to a grave as silent as the woods where he sent searchers on their futile quest. His shadow, once so menacingly cast over the case, dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind not answers, but only the chilling certainty that one potential source, however unreliable, was now forever extinguished. The chance, however slim, that he might one day utter a credible word, vanished with his last breath. In an evidence locker somewhere, untouched by sunlight, rests a relic of that August afternoon, Sara's bicycle, metal and rubber frozen in time. It's more than just an object. It's a silent, aching monument. It holds the ghost of her last moments of freedom, the weight of her absence, the stark physical proof that she was here, pedaling home, before the world tore her away. Dust may settle on its frame, but the questions it embodies remain fiercely alive. It is the tangible core of a vanishing that defies explanation. So, what did happen on Route 12 on August 18th, 1993? The brutal, honest truth is this: we may never know. No confession now will come. No new witness is likely to emerge from the fog of 30 years. No hidden grave will suddenly yield its secrets. The how, the terrifying mechanics of her disappearance executed with such eerie efficiency in broad daylight, remains locked in the void. The who, the face of the monster who did this, whether Lent or another predator forever unknown, may be lost to history. The case file remains open, a testament to enduring hope, but the trail has long since gone cold, buried under layers of time and unyielding silence. Yet, the story of Sara and Wood refuses to be buried. It refuses to fade into the static of forgotten tragedies. Her legacy isn't just in the unresolved questions, but in the persistent, aching need to remember. So, the next time you see sunlight dappling through trees onto a quiet country road, remember Sara. Remember the ordinary beauty of that moment. Shattered, the next time you see a child pedaling a bike, laughing, carefree, remember Sara. Remember the innocence stolen mid-ride. The next time you sit down for a family dinner, glancing around the table, remember the empty chair in the Wood family home that night. And every night since, her vanishing carved a void that time cannot fill. A family was forever fractured. A community lost a piece of its trust. But the echo of her absence serves as a constant, somber reminder. Evil can strike in the most mundane moments, leaving behind a darkness that lingers for generations. And perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all. Not just how a child can vanish without a trace, but why decades later, with all logical hope exhausted, we still search. Why we still turn our heads on lonely roads. Why a father drove 1,000,000 miles seeking answers. Why a forest bears her name. Why her face still looks out from fading posters. We search because forgetting feels like a second betrayal. We search because the alternative, accepting that such profound evil can simply disappear into the air, is unbearable. We search because Sara and Wood was a real girl with a laugh, a dream, and a bike she rode down a sunny road. We search because the echo of her vanishing demands that we listen, that we bear witness to the silence, and that we refuse to let the darkness have the final, absolute word. The mystery endures, the echo remains, and so does the search. Long after the trails have gone cold,